This is the Reporter's Notebook, hosted by Elaine Shane.
Welcome to this entry in the DTN Reporter's Notebook. DTN Senior Ag Meteorologist Bryce Anderson joins us today. Bryce, what's that weather forecast looking like for August?
Well, actually, Elaine, the August forecast is shaping up overall in terms of row crops as being fairly mild on temperatures, and we saw that trend begin in late July, and it looks like it's going to continue into August with temperatures running normal to below normal and offering the opportunity for at least a fairly stress-free type of scenario for late season.
So what's the main driver of this pattern?
Well, the main driver is high latitude, high pressure that is serving as a big block in terms of the jet stream track over the northern hemisphere, over the far northern latitude. And the result of that is that there is basically a refocusing, a reconfiguration of the jet stream that tends to push cool air farther to the south, and so that's going to lie over the Midwest. The impact of that is going to be variable, but it certainly is going to allow for temperatures to not be very hot with that type of a pattern.
You mentioned not very hot. Which areas are perhaps the most vulnerable for the threat of frost?
The areas that are most vulnerable are in the upper Midwest, northern Iowa into Minnesota, Wisconsin, portions of the Dakotas. This is the area, Elaine, where we already know that there's been a lot of delays in terms of planting, and so the crops in those areas are the latest, and they are the most delayed. So this is a real problem. And then we have something else going on, too, and that is portions of that northern Corn Belt area are on the dry side right now, and it looks like the way the weather pattern is shaping up that they are going to continue to be dry because that cool air mass is not going to bring a whole lot of rainfall with it. And so there's kind of a double-barreled sort of vulnerability that we have in that portion of the Corn Belt. Now, in some other areas like Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, they've had a better scenario, and the conditions, I think, are going to be quite favorable for those crops.
So looking overall at that pattern that you were talking about, I'm wondering, I guess, how will this pattern affect the yields of the corn and the soybean crops?
Well, obviously, yields are going to be better this year than they were last year. I mean, that's pretty much a given, and I think everybody understands that. But there's a real kind of a back and forth going on in terms of just how high yields are going to go. And I think that we're going to see, at this point, corn yields in that range of, say, about 152 to 156, 152 to 156 bushels per acre, and soybeans, I think, in the lower 40s in terms of bushels per acre, because there are still quite a few areas with soybean concerns and delayed development and possibly delayed maturity before frost.
How does that compare with average?
Well, the corn yields would be a little bit better than we've seen the last 3 years, obviously. That wouldn't be trend line, but it would be better than a year ago and in the last 3 years. Soybeans would be somewhat near average right now.
Thanks, Bryce.
You're welcome.
With Bryce Anderson, I'm Elaine Shane, and that's today's entry in the DTN Reporter's Notebook. Thanks for joining us.
This has been the Reporter's Notebook from the DTN Progressive Farmer Newsroom.